I've always felt alone. My whole life. For as long as I can remember. I don't know if I like it or if I'm just used to it. But I do know this. Being lonely does things to you.
On the surface, a simple horror game about killing monsters. But underneath, a powerful message about mental health, depression, and the personification of the deepest, darkest corners of the human mind. This is Cry of Fear. So I played Cry of Fear for the very first time earlier this year. I had heard the name of the game popping up a few times throughout my teens, but I never got around to checking it out. That was until I saw an 8-Bit Ryan video of him playing the entire game. I was about to watch him play the entire game until I heard him mention that the game is free on Steam. It's completely free, no charge. So I could not miss the opportunity to experience this game for myself. The intro of the game is very unexpectedly calm and quiet and almost somber. Our main character, Simon, is on a train, presumably heading home. He gets off of the train in the city and sees an unconscious individual lying on the sidewalk. Upon going to check on this individual, he gets struck by a car and the screen goes black. All he has around him is darkness with a camera to light his way. Eventually he makes it out of this strange void and finds himself yet again waking up, but this time in an alleyway of a city that he is presumably familiar with, but he doesn't know where he is, and all he has on him is a knife and his phone, with multiple texts from his mom telling him that she's worried and that he needs to get home safely as soon as possible. So, armed with nothing but a pocket knife and an early cell phone that has a flashlight and some messages from his mom, he makes his way through this strangely quiet and desolate city, hoping to get home as soon as possible. Upon making his way through the city, all Simon is met with is a strange doctor, bizarre reality-warping situations that can't possibly be real, and monsters that get more and more grotesque and horrifying the further he goes. Despite all the odds stacked against him, he makes it home to his neighborhood and fights his way through the monsters that now even flood his home neighborhood, and makes it to his house, desperately calling out for his mom, hoping that she's alright. But all he is met with is silence. Simon makes his way to his bedroom. However, he finds that it's not his bedroom. And now is when reality hits. Simon is in his apartment, in his wheelchair, writing his book that his doctor told him to write to face his mental traumas. It was all a delusion in the mind of Simon. Simon, still in a psychosis, in his wheelchair, turns around and sees what we only know as Book Simon, a demented version of Simon that exists only in his mind, in the book's version of reality. He chases down and kills Book Simon, only to find that it wasn't Book Simon at all. It was 2 police officers that he shot dead. And that is when the ending monologue of the game cues, and you will receive one of a few different ending possibilities. Thankfully, my first time around, I got the good ending, which much boosted my opinion of this game. We'll talk about the different endings later, because they are dependent on 2 different options that you can make earlier in the playthrough. Throughout the game, we are seeded little bits of what the true story is. Simon is a very disturbed individual. He has suffered from mental illness his entire life, depression, chronic loneliness, obsession with his crush who he got rejected by, and that was his only friend. And his entire life has been essentially miserable, he feels. And then after getting hit by a car and becoming paralyzed, he descended into an even darker state of mind. Eventually his doctor recommending that since the medication is not helping, that he write a book about his life's experiences. Each and every monster that Simon faced was simply the personification of his traumas. The entire game is essentially in Simon's mind until the very end when he snaps out of it. In the good ending, basically Simon's doctor vouches for him and says that this dude was in a psychosis. He didn't mean to. So he spends, instead of spending the rest of his life in jail, he spends the rest of his life in a mental institution. Luckily with Sophie, his only friend that forgives him for his obsession and way he treated her, and his family as well. And his doctor, who he now likes, who he really didn't used to like. And he basically lives happily ever after. He even has a little quote about how he wrote a happy ending of his book just for himself, and that everything's gonna be okay. Now, I'm not gonna go into too much details with the bad endings because quite frankly, they just are upsetting, and they are just not even worth accepting as canon. I think the good endings canon. I've always had a thing for good endings. I don't care how cliche they are. I hate bad endings. I'd prefer a cliched good ending any day. Anyways, bad ending number 1, Simon unalives himself and also Sophie, his only friend who he had a crush on and he was obsessed with and he got rejected by. Unalives her and he unalives himself. Bad ending number 2, Simon unalives his doctor and himself. And then the worst possible ending is Simon unalives both of them and himself. And unlike the somber, sad monologue that the other bad endings get, that third, final, worst one has a bitter, angry, hateful tone to the monologue at the end, which is honestly just sad to hear, because you've spent this entire game playing as Simon, and just to hear, it's just rough to hear. That's why I only really like the good ending. However, I mean, you know, bad endings, whatever. It's actually, I'm surprised I got the good ending, because it's fairly easy to accidentally get one of the bad endings. In fact, I almost would have if I had made one wrong choice earlier in the game. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff. The gameplay itself is like an old school shooter, which makes sense because it was originally a mod for Half-Life 1. However, the gameplay is varied. It does switch up a bit. There is variety in the mechanics of the monsters and the bosses and whatnot. Definitely don't play on the worst possible difficulty like I did the first time around, because it becomes less shooty, killy the monsters. It becomes like, how do I dodge and weave around these 15 monsters with 1 hit point of health left? So if I get hit once, I die, but I also don't have any ammo. So many sections I thought I was soft locked, and I had to go through like 15 times because killing them isn't an option. Just survive, basically, with the janky movement mechanics. It has its flaws. However, it runs great, no lag, minimal crashes, and honestly, probably my favorite part about this game is the music. Of course, there's the standard generic horror game music thrown in there. However, so many of the tracks are peaceful and hopeful and melancholic all at once, and it's done in a way where even just months after playing this game, mere months, not even a year, it's been 6 months tops since I finished that game, I'm somehow nostalgic for it already. And I think in large part to the music. It forms this emotional connection to the player, I think, because of how well done it is. It's like Minecraft music or, you know, other games where there's examples of that. I think the main takeaway here is that this game is free, and it is 100% worth checking out, especially because another reason why I just see the good ending as canon is the story arc from darkness and pure despair all the way to hope and will to live. The dark to the light, and Simon healing is just such a powerful message that I think can last in the mind of those who play it and potentially even help some people. You know, it's a simple game, but it's got a really, it's terrifying. Oh my god, so many times I got jump scared, and it was just the creepiness factor of the game as well. The entire thing is just, it's very well done, and yet somehow you escape from a death-defying, terrifying situation, and then you're met with snow and the lights from the city and the beautiful music, and all of a sudden you feel like happy. It's crazy. It's a very cool game, and that's my review on it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the next one even more, and I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching.